Yeah, but I agree. It's scary that those printers could replace human beings, and there won't be any more Bushi. So that sounds horrible.
Well,
So
then the other scary thing to me is in Japan now, modernized Japan, um, and you can make, for example, here's a 3D printed. Here's a little 3D printed plastic guy of one of the four guardians of the four directions. More and more of these types of little statues will be sold, made out of plastic or made out of wood or made out of um, uh, uh, any number of materials.
right.
And the current Bushi, who make a living by making such statuary, will be out of work. So I'm kind of worried about the future for the profession. There will always be work to repair the statuary, existing statuary in the temples. There will always be work for this. But how many people will that support? How big of a, how many Bushi will exist 50 years from now? It's very scary. It's a wonderful skill. It's a hard life. You got to be passionate. But you can see the love in those statues. You can feel the love in those statues made by hand.
I agree. So that one of the missions of Carving the Divine is to tell people how wonderful this tradition is, and not let that machine takes over human beings. And it's not. I'm not gonna let the Terminator destroy our culture. So so to speak. So yeah. So you mentioned about the Dai Bushi, but as far as I didn't know that all that ancient history behind the Dai Bushi, but nowadays I feel like Dai Bushi is basically the title, special title somebody gets. It's not. Some people get it, some people don't, and in order for somebody to get it, so you gotta be skillful, but at the same time, in Japan, often you gotta be older. If you're a young kid, so you're too young for that. So that's what I experienced. So when I was seeing Buddhist sculptors of Japan, Bushi, often they were skillful enough, but they were too young to receive Dai Bushi. So
is there a national Bushi organization that gives this title, Dai Bushi? Who gives the title?
Well, that's basically temples. Each temple,
okay.
Yeah. And there's some like a bureaucracy behind, and I mean, I don't want to get into the details, but you gotta have a good relationship with the temple, and you gotta exhibit the Bushi's work there, and so I mean, you cannot be just skillful and master to become a Bushi. Often living in Japan is a lot more than being skillful, but you gotta be master of negotiator. So that's what I experienced. So beautiful.
Well, the other I forgot to mention earlier is when Buddhism was introduced to Japan, which is like around 560, 550 Common Era. The Japanese, of course, didn't know anything about Buddhism, and they didn't know how to carve statues. So in the first 100, 150 years in Japan, most statues and the skill of becoming a Bushi were passed down from Koreans and Chinese people who had lived here and grown up here. And that is where the skill set originally was passed on to the Japanese. And then, of course, by the 7th century, now already then, we have a very skilled Japanese artisans.